In a city buzzing with ringtones, metro sounds, and late-night food deliveries, Maya lived a life that was untouched by the noise. At 27, she worked as a digital librarian in Mumbai, quiet, observant, and a true old soul in a tech-savvy world. Her apartment had fairy lights, a Persian rug she found online, and stacks of used books ordered from international sellers. She loved chai lattes, indie music, and Korean dramas. And while she'd travelled virtually everywhere in her dreams, she had never stepped out of India. One crisp January morning, she received an unexpected email from the International Library Association. They had chosen her to attend the Global Book and Culture Symposium in Istanbul, Turkey. It was her first passport, first suitcase with travel tags, and her very first flight. Her mother, stirring dal in the kitchen, said, "Maybe this trip will bring love too." Maya rolled her eyes and replied with a smile, "Love doesn't happen in airports, Ma. That's just in movies." She landed at Indira Gandhi International Airport, dressed in a long camel-coloured coat and black leggings. She clutched her leather-bound journal as she walked toward the large departure screens. Just as she squinted to find her gate, she heard a calm voice say, "Hey, are you headed to Istanbul too?" She turned. There he was, tall, light stubble, messy hair under a beanie, and a camera slung casually across his chest. "Yeah, flight TK717, she said. "I think I'm kind of lost." "Me too," he grinned. "I'm Arav, first time flying." "First time flying abroad," she replied. They walked together to the gate. Arav was a freelance travel photographer from Jaipur. His work had been published in National Geographic Traveller, and he was going to Istanbul for a collaborative gallery exhibit. As they chatted, they realized they had the same love for Turkish delight, street photography, and Murakami books. When they boarded the flight, the universe winked at them. Seats 33A and 33B. As the plane soared over foreign skies, Maya looked out the window, heart thumping. Clouds stretched like a field of dreams beneath them. Arav leaned closer and said, "Looks like heaven's not above us. We're floating in it." For 6 hours, they lived in a world suspended in time. She told him about how her father died when she was 14, how books became her escape, how she always imagined kissing someone in the rain but never actually had. He told her how he once hitchhiked across Croatia with only a power bank and hope. When mild turbulence hit, Maya clutched her armrest. Arav placed his hand over hers and whispered, "Breathe." Love and flights, they're both about trust. In Istanbul, they parted ways. Arav's pickup car arrived first. Maya booked an Uber through an app. Their goodbye felt incomplete. Maya tried to sleep in her hotel room that night, but kept checking her phone. She'd only known him for a few hours, but it felt like chapters. On the third day, she sat at a local cafe near Galata Tower, sipping mint tea and scrolling through photos of Turkish carpets. A shadow fell on her table. "Maya?" She looked up and there he was, Arav, holding a simit, Turkish sesame bagel, and wearing aviator sunglasses. "I told myself if I walked 10 blocks and found you, I'd ask you for coffee," he said. She laughed. "You found me in 2. From that moment, Istanbul became their playground. They wandered through the Grand Bazaar, tasted saffron ice cream, tried baklava that melted in their mouths. He took photos of her reading near Bosphorus, under street lamps, beside cats sleeping on scooters. One night they sat near Maiden's Tower and watched ferries glide by. He suddenly said, "If this were a Netflix series, this would be the end of season 1. She smiled. "Then let's make it a long series with many seasons." They even visited a rooftop jazz bar where strangers danced under fairy lights. As the music slowed, he offered his hand. "We don't need to know how to dance, we just need to move." She took his hand. They swayed like two people syncing their heartbeats. On their last night, they visited a small vintage bookstore that sold second-hand novels in every language. Maya picked up a copy of Love in the Time of Cholera. Arav bought it and wrote on the first page, "For Maya." Our love didn't wait 53 years. It waited just one flight. At the airport the next morning, she was quiet. "What happens next?" she asked. Arav opened his phone, showed her a calendar invite titled, "New Chapter, March 25th, Jaipur or Mumbai?" "You choose," he said. "Istanbul," she whispered. "Let's return here next year." He kissed her forehead. "Deal." When she boarded her flight, Maya found a USB drive in her coat pocket. On it were dozens of photos, her laughing, reading, sipping tea, touching street cats. The last file was a video, Arav's voice saying, "Sometimes love doesn't hit you like thunder. Sometimes it whispers in airports and grows in between city maps and morning coffees." They texted every day. They video called from different time zones. Maya began writing again. Arav published a photo essay called "The Sky Between Us." It went viral. Everyone wanted to know who the mysterious girl in the photos was, but she wasn't ready for fame. Their love was quiet, secret, sacred. 6 months later, they met again. Same airport, same gate. This time, Arav wasn't holding a camera. He was holding a small black box. Kneeling beside the same window seat where their story began, he said, "I met you at the gate to a new world. Will you walk through the rest with me?" Maya cried. Not the dramatic kind, but the kind where joy is too much to hold inside. She nodded. Yes, 1,000 yeses. As their flight to Rome was announced, their honeymoon destination, a stranger nearby smiled and said to her husband, "Did you see them?" Must be a movie scene, and maybe it was. A story that didn't begin with "once upon a time," but with "Are you also going to Istanbul?" But sometimes stories like this don't really end. They just find new places to bloom. A year later, Istanbul welcomed them back. Same cobbled lanes, same breeze from the Bosphorus. But this time, Maya and Arav walked those streets hand in hand. They stayed in a small penthouse overlooking the Hagia Sophia, filled with plants, vintage maps, and a record player they found in a Sunday flea market. At their favourite cafe near Galata Tower, a framed photo now hung. Maya sipping mint tea, smiling at something unseen. The barista nodded when they walked in. "Your love lives here," he said. Maya's debut book, The Sky Between Us, hit bestseller lists in 17 countries. It was a poetic memoir of their journey, from strangers to soulmates, with chapter titles like Gate 14, Seat 33A, and Mint Tea in Istanbul. Arav's photography graced every page. During interviews, Maya often laughed. "I just asked him where Gate 14 was. He showed me a lifetime instead." They travelled the world, from Kyoto's cherry blossoms to the neon lanes of Seoul, from New York's snow to the beaches of Santorini. And yet, every January, they returned to Istanbul. Always the same flight, always the same seats. Years later, they had a daughter named Noor, curious-eyed and fearless. Her bedtime story wasn't a fairy tale, but real. "Are you also going to Istanbul?" On their 10th anniversary, Arav held Maya's hand as they stood near the maiden's tower again. He whispered, "If this were a movie, the credits would roll now." Maya smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Let them roll, we're still living it." Because some stories don't need an ending. They simply become legacy. And this one? It began with a question and became forever.